I was struggling to find a new side hustle for quite a while until I stumbled upon the idea of selling AI images on stock photography websites around 8 months ago. And when doing a deeper dive into it, I found results of people making well over $30,000 from this side hustle, which I thought was really impressive considering literally anyone can do this assuming you have a Wi-Fi connection and a laptop, and it doesn't require any skills at all. So with that, I decided to give it a go for myself, which inspired my first video where I spent 90 days trying to create as many images as I possibly could and upload them to stock photography websites to see how much money we can make. But this turned out to be a bit of a flop, as we only made a total of $33.63 from 997 images that I managed to upload to Adobe Stock. But then a few months later, I did a follow-up video as an earnings update, but instead with a portfolio size of 1,835 images, which helped take my earnings to a total of $128.29. But the problem was, the period between my first and second video, I'd seriously been slacking with the uploads to Adobe Stock, as I only managed to increase my portfolio size by 838 images, which is really bad. So when I'd realized I'd been slacking, I set myself a challenge to try and reach 10,000 images within my portfolio and see if this would help increase my earnings to be more in line with what I was seeing online. So for the past 2 months, I've been going absolutely crazy with the uploads, but after some long evenings and late nights, here we are now with a portfolio size of 13,372 images and a total earnings of $225.80. And bearing in mind, almost 12,000 of my images have only just been added to my portfolio within the last week or two, which means most of that $225.80 had likely come from my first 1,800 images that I'd uploaded earlier in the year. But now with a much larger portfolio size, I'm hoping by the end of this year, we should see our earnings amount start to grow a lot faster. And at the time of filming this clip right now, it's currently nearing the end of October, so what I will likely do is check in again with you guys at the end of November and then again at the end of the year, and then we can see if our new images within our portfolio have helped increase our earnings. A month has now passed, so let's go ahead and take a look at the total earnings and downloads for the end of November and see which images have been performing the best as well. And do bear in mind, I haven't uploaded any more images to Adobe Stock, which means we're still sat at 13,372 images in my portfolio. So all the earnings from the past month have essentially been passive income. And here I've now logged into my Adobe Stock dashboard where we can see all of the earnings from the past month, which comes to a total of $65.62, and this all comes from a total of 96 downloads. But when looking at the lifetime earnings, this has now taken our total to $297.08, and this all comes from a total of 402 downloads across the entire time that this portfolio has been live. Now, I don't think making an extra $65.62 in 1 month is too bad, especially when considering the fact that this is the first time that I've logged into Adobe Stock since the last time I filmed back at the end of October, but it's definitely a far cry from the earnings that I was expecting to see after exceeding 10,000 images within my portfolio. And who knows, this could be down to a number of things, like not many people are searching for my images during this time of year, as I can imagine a lot of people and businesses are gearing up towards Black Friday, which actually happened to be yesterday, and they're also gearing up towards Christmas as well. And I don't think I actually have many images within my portfolio that are related to Black Friday and Christmas, because when we take a look at the activity within my account over the past few days and weeks, it seems to be filled with a lot of wall mock-up images, solar panels, and people at work. And one thing I do find odd about this list is the fact that we're currently heading into winter in most places across the US, Canada, and the UK. But despite this, solar panel related images seem to be my most licensed images across my entire portfolio. So perhaps I'll see larger spikes and higher earnings amounts during the warmer and brighter months where people and businesses are typically more interested in solar panel related images. And if that does end up being the case, then I should have really better prepared my portfolio to be more inclusive of all seasons and months of the year, instead of just focusing on niches and categories of images. But hopefully in another month's time, when we check the final earnings for the end of the year, it will show us some better results. Okay, so the time has come as it's now January, which means the final earnings are in, and we can now take a look and see how much we made in total across the year of 2024. But do bear in mind, this won't be a full year of earnings, as my first licensed image didn't come through until March, as this was around the time when I first started and made my first 90-day video challenge on Adobe Stock, which means these earnings came from a 9-month span instead of an entire year. So as you can see from this graph, which is showing us the entire year of 2024, we've made a grand total of $350.97, coming from a total of 484 downloads. And again, here on the graph, we can see that the first licensed image didn't come through to the beginning of March. And at the bottom of this list, which shows us all of the licensed images within 2024, we can see that it happened to be this exact image licensed on the 6th of March, which is around the time when I first started uploading to Adobe Stock. But heading back to the graph, the thing I'm most interested in looking at is whether or not my efforts of reaching 10,000 images within my portfolio actually improved my earnings like I thought it would. And it was around this time right here towards the end of September and beginning of October where I went all in for a few weeks and did nothing but upload to Adobe Stock in order to reach the 10,000 images goal. Because up to that point, I only had a total of 1,835 images within my portfolio, and my theory was, if I were to reach over 10,000 images, I should then begin to see around 5 times higher earnings as a result of my portfolio being 5 times larger. But as we can see, the short answer to this theory is that having a 5 times larger portfolio than you did before does not directly correlate to you earning 5 times more, at least in my case. Because here on the graph, we can see I was averaging around $6 to $10 a week while I had 1,835 images, but increasing my portfolio size to 13,372 images, we've been averaging around $12 to $20 a week. So despite my portfolio actually being 7 times larger, I've only really doubled my average weekly earnings. So putting the total earnings amount aside, this really was the main premise of this video, as I wanted to test this theory out and show you guys the realistic results as to whether or not uploading more images directly results in higher earnings. Because although I am now earning more than I was before, I think most people would assume the same thing, that by increasing your portfolio size, this would somehow directly reflect through your earnings. But here in my case, it just hasn't increased anywhere near as much as I thought it would. And I think the 80-20 rule definitely applies to this type of side hustle, which is where 80% of outcomes arise from 20% of causes, or in this case, 80% of earnings come from 20% of your images. As one last thing I want to show you is my top sellers list, which only has a list of 115 images that have been licensed, but yet these images have generated $221.65 from my total earnings of $350.97. So that means the rest of the images that made up my remaining earnings made 99 cents or less. And if I had to guess, only 300 images from my portfolio have actually been licensed and contributed towards my total earnings, which is only actually 2 to 3% of my entire portfolio. And I guess the only way to bring this percentage up is by uploading high quality and eye-catching images, and also images within categories that are highly sought after within Adobe Stock. And this is where I probably could have done a better job in doing more research to ensure that I'm not left with any dead images that aren't being looked at or found. But I hope this sheds some light on the realistic earnings of doing AI stock photography, because it's most certainly not a get-rich-quick side hustle, but I do believe it has the potential to make people an extra few $100s a month if that's what you're looking for. But for now, I will continue to upload images to my portfolio over the course of 2025, but instead at a more consistent pace instead of the mad rush I made myself do a few months ago. And I will try to upload quarterly updates with earnings so you guys can see my progress and the results that I'm getting. So with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye for now. Peace.